Um, as Rob said, my name is Gerard Sullivan, and I work for a company called Daytech Ireland, and we're the distributor of Autodesk software in Ireland. So my main focus with Daytech is for the AEC portfolio, which comprises of about 40 products. So all of these are, we would see, part of the BIM solution. So again, what you're going to see in the next hour, I suppose, will be a flavour of some of those products, how they can help you in the different stages, the planning, your design, your construction phase. So bear with me now while I just set up, and if you don't mind, I'm going to sit down for this because we're going to do it live. So just close some of these down. Okay, so we're going to start off, I suppose, with the role of the architect and see what he can begin to use in the BIM side of things very early on. Okay, so what you're seeing here is not me designing some new flags or that. It's actually a conceptual model. Okay, so at a very early stage, you will have sketch ideas in your head. You'll want to put them down on paper. In this case, we're not using paper, we're using actual mass elements, okay? We begin laying them out. What does that give us? Well, it gives us a form that we can shape and mold. What you're seeing on the screen is one file, and I'll talk about file setup and how we work on a model. But we have different options on the same file. So based on my 3 design options, I can begin to play around with the shapes. It's not a building yet, we're not dealing with walls, roofs, because we don't know what they're constructed from. We haven't done any energy analysis yet to maybe test the different U values we might be using. So what we're doing is we're just playing around with the shapes, okay? It's a bit like, you know, push and pull technology. A lot of you might use SketchUp and that. But what we do get from this, I mean, if I just show you how we can very, very simply edit one of these. I have my options placed in here. So if I go editing my option, which again is the cross, we can just start to take this and we can begin to pull and push and move them around. Okay, so it's very easy to do that when you're in the model environment. So what is this model giving me at this stage? Well, already what we're seeing is, just deactivate the view, is a schedule. Okay, so this is really just a block, but already based on the colors, I just colored them different colors. I've got circulation, which is obviously the purple color, and I've got my rooms, which again, this could be a classroom, it could be an office, it doesn't matter what it is, but I'm getting floor areas, floor volumes, and exterior surface areas from something that's that simple. Okay, very, very, very basic, I suppose, information that's coming back, but it's useful at this point. So we could, I suppose, start looking at costs even now. So put a cost per floor by floor, and we could get an initial cost. However, we can actually take this mass, and I think if anybody has been looking at or getting Autodesk emails recently, you might have seen yesterday, I think it was, where they announced the Autodesk Cloud. Okay, so what was announced yesterday was, I suppose, the ability to place files up on the cloud and be able to store them. There's also other features in the cloud, and one of them, which we're just going to have a quick look at now, would be the energy analysis. So conceptual energy analysis, something that, you know, very early on, I can take that mass and I can turn it into what you're seeing here, which is an energy model. Okay, so what does this energy model give me, or how do I work out or dictate what energy is being analysed? If I just have a quick look at the energy settings, all right, we have, first of all, a very important part will be picking your location and picking your building type. So I've got a list of building types. I'm going to select one of them, which is, you know, in this case, it's a school or university. We can then start looking at location. So we're just getting a lat and longitude there. But if I go into it, I'm pretty sure internet is still working here. We're actually being given an option to pick a location, and it happens to be in Cork here in Mahon. We've picked as the location, but it can be anywhere in the world. Based on that location, there is weather data associated with the location, and that's where it's reading. So it's reading historical weather data for that location. So wherever you are in the world, even in Ireland, you know, there's probably I don't know, about 20 or 30 weather stations. You can download them anyway and create your own weather data if you wanted to. But that's where we're getting the data from. So based on that data, then we can start to make informed decisions very, very early on. I'll just maybe go through 1 or 2 other things there. We have constructions. Okay, so at this stage, I'm thinking about maybe what I would like to use. I don't really know, is it going to be timber frame or whatever. So what I would like to do is to be able to very quickly pick, you know, a construction type from my exterior wall, from my interior walls, from my roof, you know, and I've got a list of constructions that I can choose from. Again, really all it's looking here is the U value of those constructions, okay? So we place our constructions on. We then can decide to actually put a percentage of glazing. I don't even have to draw windows to create those opes. I just say I want 40% glazing on each room, and that's what it gives me back. Give it a sill height. Again, that's completely editable afterwards. I can change the actual openings. I can actually get to as close of what the actual opening is going to be. And then we can put in skylights and all that if we needed to. And obviously then there is some more energy data. We have to decide how the building is heated and cooled. But as an architect, this isn't information you might even think about. You know, you tend to think, oh, this is the engineer's job to actually work that out. So I'm doing this very early on. And then what I get when I do my analysis is I will get back a report, okay? So you'll see, I'll try and show you two of them as a comparison there, but it's going to be very hard to see them on the projector. But just to give you an idea of the information that this energy model here is giving me back. So you saw the location. We have the weather station has a number, we've got outdoor temperatures, we've got floor area. Then it starts to, you know, tell me how many people based on the types of rooms. I've said they're all classrooms and their circulation, so it works out the number of people. It is giving me electrical and fuel costs, which I can edit. But then it's starting to look at energy use, total energy use over a year, say, life cycle energy cost. Then it's giving me back graphs. You know, what happens if I put in a roof-mounted solar panels? Would that save me on energy over a year? So again, very useful information that I can look through. I can take these graphs, I can put them into reports. But I suppose the important thing is that we can actually compare. So we can compare one building type with the other, you know, and again a third one here, and we can see, well, which is the most economical. Again, it's not from a design point of view, it's more from an energy analysis point of view, okay? So that's using the mass at a very early stage in the design process, okay? So very, very useful information from that. You can then start to look, I suppose, more into the design side of the building itself. Okay, so I'm going to close this file down. I'm going to open up a more fully designed building. But again, we will start off at the conceptual stage. Okay, so again, this is another mass model for a supermarket that we're looking on. And again, the areas are embedded in there. So we have zones for the retail area. If I select the overall building, I'm now getting what you saw on the schedule: gross areas, surface areas, volumes. We can even take it down to the zones, and now we're getting our areas again. But the first thing, maybe from a site point of view, you need to get in data. You need to see where the site is sitting. Let's just say this is a greenfield site that we're working on. So the first thing I could do is I may grab an image from Google Maps or Google Earth or something, you know. This is just 2D at the moment, but we can actually get 3D terrain from Google Earth and use that, create a topography inside in Revit, and work on that. So the Google terrain, what does that give me? Well, I suppose I can begin to see, if I turn on something like shadows, I can see what and again it's kind of hard to see there, but you can see what my shadows are at any particular time of the day. So let's just turn on the sun path, and we can actually manually, I suppose, animate the sun like that. So we can pull it, you know, through the different times of the day, and the shadows are going to update instantly because we are dealing with an actual object here. Or you can actually animate it. I'd probably like to do it this way, so I might go into a top view like that, and we'll just change our sun settings from, say, a still to a single day like that, and we'll play it through. So then when we go to play the animation through this time, we're actually going to see the shadows animated. And obviously, if that affects any of the nearby buildings, you're going to see that updated on the screen. So again, very slight shadowing, but you get the idea. This can be done very, very early on, okay, inside in Revit. If we were to, say, look at that in another product, so taking the model out to something like EcoTips. Again, EcoTips is, I suppose, a conceptual analysis tool which does, as you can see there, I've got a list of various files. We do things like shading design, we do daylighting, acoustic, thermal analysis, all that type of analysis. So if I was to look at shadows for something here, let's just show you another example. So in this case, it's taking the shadows a bit further, and we're looking at a city mass here at the moment, but all I'm doing is I'm looking at the shadows for my building, not any of the others. So it's very difficult to do. How do you do that even in an ordinary 3D modeling package? You can't isolate one building and show its shadows. What we can do then is, though, we might be able to look at it for all buildings. like that. And then you might be able to reverse sort the shadows. And what does that mean? Well, what it does is it just shows where my shadows from my building are impacting. You know, so the red areas there are obviously where I'm adding to existing shadows. Again, from a planning point of view, to be able to prove that initially in your design is very, very important, you know. And I'll just show you, if I skip through a couple of days of the year, the shadows will update, and you can see, yeah, I'm having even less impact as I go further on in the year. And maybe if I start coming down into, say, July and that, yeah, it's not too bad. So my building is having very little overall impact on the existing buildings in that case. Very useful to be able to get that analysis very, very, very quickly. Okay. So again, there's lots of examples here. I'm going to go back into Revit again. Now you're going to see me jumping over and back because various products will do different things. So at this stage we have, you know, the background. We have a mass model that we can work on. We can then start looking at that mass model again and start looking at things like, you know, for the retail area here, I'll just show you the energy model for this. We've decided that we're going to put a large amount of glazing in this wall here and another large amount here. You know, typical supermarket design. And we can obviously have our building orientation set up. Again, how would you, normally you would know the best orientation for a building, but how would it be if you could test that, you know? So what we've done here, again, these are just screenshots, but it's just to give you an idea that we have an ability inside EcoTips. I told you about taking existing Irish data, so we can take Irish weather data and, you know, obviously reading in the solar data and the sun path, and we can get an optimum building orientation for that location. Again, most of you will know what that will be, but again, to test it, that's very, very useful to do. So once we have our orientation and we have set the building at that orientation, we can then start looking at daylight factors. So again, taking a very simple model, this is all about simple geometry yet, but intelligent all the same. You're going to see a more advanced model as we pass through. So here I'm looking at daylight factors, so percentage daylight factors based on the data that I have fed into this very simple model. And you can see obviously there the areas where it's affecting. Or we could look at daylight levels. So we can look at daylight levels here, this type of information, very similar graphic, but again it's very visual. You know, to be able to see that in an image rather than actually seeing a report and having to I suppose, number crunch that information. This is what I suppose the BIM side of things, when you're working in a model, gives you. We can take it a bit further. Again, various products, as I say, and we can go back out into EcoTips again, and we can look at something like daylight factors. Just something like this, where you saw the glazing that I had put in. Now, let's just say we were wanting an actual target percentage daylight. We were going to say we want it to be 5%, 6% at that particular point in that room. Okay? So we have basically placed a very simple window, it's only an opening, and we can run a script on that. And what the script will do is, it will ask me, well, what percentage do you want of light at that point in the room? And I will say, well, let's put in 6%. And what EcoTips will then do, it will go and it will design the optimum window to give me, as you can see, 6.08% daylight factor at that point in the room, you know. So again, I may not use that exact window shape, that's in my head, that's not what I'm trying to design, but at least I have an idea and I can work from that. And to be able to get that information is very, very useful. Again, you're looking at light coming into the building. What happens if your building, again, a bit like the city massing, is in the middle of existing buildings, and we want to see how does it affect their light? Okay, and what shape, what would the optimum shape be for my building? And I'll show you what I mean by that. We've got, this is my massing model again, and all we have done here is we have set out a building shape, this pad here. These blue represent the windows in the existing buildings. We have our sun set up, we have all that information in there, and we can then run another script, which what it will do is, it will create the optimum building shape, allowing these guys here to still get light into their rooms. And again, that can be over a period of, you know, the summer or whatever. So again, I'm not saying this is the mass, my building is going to look like this. It's not going to look like the Giant's Causeway, you know. It is going to be a building that I can place within that. And again, I know I'm not affecting existing geometry. And this is still very simple information. It's just blocks, but they have intelligence. So hopefully you're seeing things there that you will, you know, say, yeah, if I could do that early on, rather than when I'm on site and realise that I'm actually blocking the light from the ground floor over in these guys. That would be very useful. Okay. There's lots of different shadowings we can do, lots of different examples, but because we're tight, I'm gonna keep it to that. Okay. So that's the conceptual side, the energy side, making informed decisions very, very early on the process. Let's just see now what a BIM model will give you if we do put more information in. Let's just have a look at the model if we start to model the elements in the actual model itself. So I'm going to just scroll down probably to an existing, say this one here. Now this is a much more advanced model, as you can see. We're still actually in the same file. So what I'm trying to get here is that we started at the conceptual and we built it up to here. Now this is almost finished, but I'm going to still add elements to it so you see the process of doing that. So again, Ralph talked about information, and we could always even say intelligent information. So if I select an element here, we are looking at an actual object, okay? That object has things like area, it has levels associated with it, it has volume, it even has materials. So, you know, when I'm doing my presentation drawings in a minute, you'll see that the materials are already there, and they are going to obviously enhance the final renders that we're going to do, you know. So we have a lot of intelligence built into that model. So let's look at the presentation side of the process. A lot of you might do your own, you might use Max. Again, we have the option to export out this model to Max and then render inside Max, but we're just dealing with one model, one product, and we're seeing what we can get out of that. So from a presentation point of view, I'm going to take a very, very basic, and this is, again, you have to realize here that when I look at, say, something like this, I'm just going to tile a few of these windows that I've opened, just close a few of them down so that we can see the elevation. Let's get rid of that one as well. Okay, so again, we're just a little tight on actual space here, but we'll work through it. So when I select this wall here, you have to see that we are selecting it in the elevation as well. And that's very important. That's why you can have consistent coordinated information, because we only place this object once. We don't have to place it in a different view. It's only ever placed once. So when I go to edit it, it will only be edited once. So then the need for, you know, revision control is very, it's taken care of. You're not worried about information going out that isn't in the model because it's always consistent. So let's just do a little bit of editing then. Let's create, let's edit the elevation. Okay. So I'll just tile up these again, and let's just say I want to add some curtain wall here. Okay, so we'll deselect the wall, and we're just going to add. Now again, when we are to be able to add intelligence, we need to have tools that will do that for us. So rather than the traditional process of lines, arcs and circles, which we would see as 2D CAD, or even 3D CAD, I mean it's still lines, arcs and circles, even though it may have a 3D format, it doesn't have the intelligence that these objects bring to the model. So when I go to draw a wall in this case, you know, I'm inputting properties, like the type of curtain wall it is, I'm just picking an existing one, the level that I'm drawing it from, the level, the height of it, all being controlled by the actual model. And again, the pattern, what makes up this curtain wall, and how it's going to be, how it's going to look. So if I decide to, let's just draw it and we'll see what happens. So we select a point within an existing wall here, and we'll just scroll down, and we'll finish off the curtain wall like that. And what you should see happening is, you should see it being added instantly. The minute it gets added to the plan, it should get added to the actual elevation like that. Okay? So you're seeing the same information on both views. We can then select that, we can attach it to the roof. Maybe we'd like to have a curved top on it. So we'll attach it, and it will attach it. And it's even asking me now, well, delete elements, because there's portions there that were only there because of the height. So now let's just say we'll delete them. They're probably too small to create as a piece of glazing, and the product is telling me that. It's just a soft warning, and I'll say, yeah, delete them, and on we go. Okay, so we've got our elevation. You see the process. We place the information in any view, and it updates every view. Let's just say now we want to enhance the elevation. We want to make it, you know, more presentable. Okay, so I'm going to just expand the elevation view here and get rid of some information. Like, I mean, things like grid lines, I don't really necessarily need to see them in my elevation view. You know, I can get rid of, say, the levels, obviously a very important part of the model, but not necessary at this point. And if we have, you know, miscellaneous information from the car park or wherever it happens to be, we can crop down the view and we can get rid of that. So we're beginning now to see a very, I suppose, neat elevation view. We could, if we wanted to, insert in an image. So you saw me bringing in a Google Earth screenshot, or it was there. Let's just bring in an image in the background, and we'll just fire it up here on the supermarket. Should be in here somewhere. Yeah. And we will go for, I thought it was in here somewhere. Maybe I didn't save it in there. Thought I did, yeah. Okay, but just again, this was just taken. Actually, I didn't take this one. I remember this one now. This was just something I created inside in Photoshop, just a gradient. So a very, very quick, you know, what we'll say, we'll leave it as a sky background. I'll unclip it again there, and we can just make it large. So again, this is just me, you know, taking very simple 2D geometry, 2D images, and adding it in there. Now, if we want to enhance it a bit more, we can start to add in components. These components can be 2D components, so in this case just very, very basic. Again, people who are working in 2D CAD will say, yeah, we can do that in AutoCAD, fine. But again, this is just a little bit more intelligent, because then we can start to add 3D information. So we can add in something like the signage, place it on the wall like that. And you're going to see that signage later on in the perspective views, and you're going to see the curtain wall in there as well. So we're nearly there. You saw earlier on we had shadows in the conceptual model. We can still have shadows here. You know, so we can turn on the shadows to give it a bit more effect. And that's my elevation pretty much done, you know. I've pretty much added as much as I want to that. And that's my elevation ready to be put on a sheet. If you want to, then you take it to the next level and you look at, say, 3D views, okay? So when we look at the model and we have the model there, we can very, very quickly create perspective views from any part of the model. All right, so I've got a few pre-cooked ones here, lots of internal views, so this type of output, you know, so these are all live, all of these objects are live. You'll see more of that model later on. A couple of external views, you know, like that with shadows on. So I just want to show you or take you through the process of creating one of those for a presentation that you have to do. So let's go back into the plan view. And we'll just look at the front entrance here. Maybe we need to do a study on that. Go to our view and we'll create a very quick camera view. Okay? So I know I'm going fairly fast, but really we just need to get through a lot of this. So that's our camera view. Again, live information. We can very easily crop or expand the crop region here so we see more of that porch area, like that. And then we can start, you know, enhancing it even more by, we could turn on shadows again. I've done that a few times, so I'm not going to. I'm going to change the shadow option here, and we might use something called ambient shadows. So again, they're not true shadows, they're just basically applied to objects where they meet other objects. If something is circular or curved, you'll get a shadow effect on it, so we can apply that. You saw me a minute ago adding in an image which represented the sky. Now we can just put in a gradient, maybe change the color to represent maybe a little bit darker, and we'll just apply that so it now matches the elevation view somewhat. So again, very, very easy to do. You could even ghost all your surfaces, which is another feature of 2012. Again, it's I'm not that happy with it yet. I prefer actually the ambient shadows, so we'll leave it at that. So that's my perspective view, and as I say, that is live information. If you wanted to, you could actually use that to walk a client through the actual model, you know. So we can use any camera view, as you can see here. Walk too fast, come back out again, and we just come back out to where we were, somewhere like that. Okay, so very easy to use that even as a presentation tool live on the model itself. So we now have got an external view, camera, we've got an elevation, and now it's all about just putting that information together. But you don't have to go out of the package, you don't have to take it into another package like AutoCAD or whatever to do that. You do it within the actual model. So what I have down here, as you can see, I have quite a lot of views for my model. As I go through them, you'll see me opening them and closing them. But down at the very bottom, we still have got our sheets. So the sheets that we present the information on. Again, we'd all like to get away from the paper, the production of paper drawings, but it still is there and we still need to be able to do that. So down here you'll see one I've pre-cooked for the internal views. So these are all the internal, I suppose, perspective shots that you saw a minute ago. So again, gathered together. So if we want to create our own one of those, it's a very simple process. We just create a new sheet. And once we have the sheet, it's a case of dragging and dropping. So that's my elevation I just created. I can drag it, I can drop it onto the sheet. Scale and all that is taken care of. We don't worry about that because it was set up on the view. So it's already set up. In this case, I can just zoom in. It's telling me it's 1 to 100. You can see it there. It's coming up on the projector. So now that's my elevation view. Let's bring in some of the internal or external perspectives that we'd already set up. So we'll take this guy here, external view 1, and we'll just pop that in there. We'll take external view 2, and this is looking at the elevation where I would have added the curtain wall. So I don't have to go back and add that curtain wall to a camera view. It's automatic, it's there already. And the view I created, which at the moment is just sitting up here, because I didn't apply, I've got a view use set up here, so I just need to apply that to presentation, and then we'll just pop that onto the sheet as well. So again, it's my unnamed sheet here, and we'll just create or pop that view. I think it's this one, number 3, like that. Now again, if it is a little bit too big, we can always go and move around the views afterwards. I think that is the right one. So again, if you say, yeah, that's a little bit too big, let's just move the views. You know, this is just standard stuff. We can just pop them up like that, and they will move around like that. And if I want to, okay, I'm a little bit tight on space, so we'll do a little cheat. We'll take away the titles, and that will look a little bit better. Okay, so you get the idea. So I can very quickly present this to a client or whoever from that model. And at this stage, that model is just, you could say, it's just walls and a roof. But from that, we can get a lot of information. A lot of people then will say, well, these are just live views, they're just shaded views. What happens if I want to render? Okay, if I want to actually get rendered output. I spoke about FBX, or I spoke about Max, and the way to get to Max is the FBX file format. Again, Autodesk now have rendering in the cloud. So if you're on subscription, they have rendering ability in the cloud. And what does that mean? Well, I'll just give you a quick example. I can't show it you happening, but if I was to do a render, say, like this one, say this one here. Okay, so if I was to do that in Revit, it may take 10 minutes, could take 30 minutes, could take an hour, depending on the quality, you know. It will do it, it will take time. It's taking up, you know, my machine is grinding away through the rendering, so it slows it down. If I wanted to, I can upload that rendering to the cloud. It goes up, gets rendered in the cloud, and it comes back down onto my machine. I've done a few tests, and it's like 10 minutes versus 20 seconds. That kind of, you know, ability, and it happens in the background. So, you know, it's a much better way, and you're going to see a lot of technology going in that down the cloud route. So that's just a sample of the rendering you can get out using materials. Again, I'll zoom in, but with the projector, it doesn't look maybe as good as it does on my screen here. So you can then, if you wanted to get rid of your live sheet views or your live model views, and let's just bring in a rendering in its place. So again, very, very quick, very easy to present the finished model, again using daylight settings that you would have picked from the original conceptual analysis model. So again, that's just the presentation side. It's giving you a flavour, I suppose, of what BIM and what working in a model environment can give you. Okay, a little bit more then on, we talk about consistent views. And we talk about, you saw it there with the elevation and presenting that information. I just want to give you an idea of adding a little bit more detail to the model. So let's go to my coordinated documentation here. And in this case, what I want to do is I want to concentrate on one part of the model. Even though this is quite a large floor plan with a lot of information in there, I just want to concentrate on this area here, which is where I'm going to work on the stairwell that needs to go up to the plant room. So we're going to just, we'll say, crop it down to that part of the model, like so. And very quickly, I mean, if you were doing this in a 2D environment, you'd be trimming and you'd be extending and you'd be trying to clean up the drawing. It's a very, very easy process in here where I can just use that box I drew to crop everything down so that I can concentrate on that one area of the model. Still the same information, it's still the same wall you saw there on the extended plan, but now we're just focusing on one area. And again, we might just do that for the level above. So we'll take that, and we'll take this view, and we will just crop that down again, using the same, we'll call it a scope box, to do that. Tile the two of them together, so you can see the two of them side by side. Now if we want to create a section through the model, you know, we want to see what is going to happen to the stair in section. We'll just create a very quick section view here, which looks like this, and then we'll just expand it, and we'll go to that view, and we'll see what it's seeing. So that's the section. So again, the level of detail there is about, say, 1 to 50. It's kind of planning drawings. We will talk later on about the detailing of the elements when we want to actually present, you know, as our construction drawings. But for the moment, we're dealing with a low level of detail. And again, we can take that section and we can just bring that down so it sees exactly what the plan is seeing. And if you really wanted to, then you could begin to take, I suppose, the overall 3D view. You know, something like that one there, which is again the full model, and we could make a copy of that. So we don't want to see, we just want to copy it, so we'll just duplicate it. Again, you're not doubling up on the information, we're just making a copy of the view, and we'll rename that to stairwell 3D, and we'll take that and we'll crop it down very quickly to the actual stairs itself, something like that. So you're getting the idea how easy it is to manipulate the geometry, and that's now what we're seeing in 3D. So there are my 3-4 views ready to be added, or ready for geometry to be added to them. So I'm going to take this wall here, which you can see now has been selected in any of the views I see it. I'm going to create a similar wall. So I'm going to create a similar wall. I don't even have to work out what it is, but it's telling me here anyway. It's 140 block. We then decide, well, how high does this need to go up? So we'll take it right up to level 1, and we'll just draft it in plan view. But what you should see happening is, you should see it appearing in all the views. Okay? So that single wall now is appearing in all the views that we see it in. We'll pop it in there. And if we want to, we can flip it. We're going to have it on the other side. If we want to add geometry to it, like a door. So again, all these objects have intelligence. When I select door, it's not like a dumb block. We are looking at door type, size. We're looking at intelligent information built in, like materials. We're looking at thicknesses for the door panels, handle heights, handle types. You know, that type of information has been added in here. So when I go to place the door, you can't place it in space, so you have to place it within a wall. So we'll either have it swinging internally or externally. I will have it in, and that's my door. And things like, and we'll look at scheduling later, that door now has been given a tag, it's been added to a schedule. Don't have to worry about that, that's all been done, because the information only gets added one time. So let's finish it off then, put in our stairs, pick a railing type, say very simple again. And all the geometry I'm using here is out of the box as well. So you will find that there's a huge library of components. A lot of people worry about, well, how do I start off, or where do I start from? And again, you'll see a huge library of components in there. So this is my stair done. It looks like it's a 2D sketch, but once we finish the sketch, we should then get to see the finished stairs like that. So again, create it once, do it in one view, and you will get it in all the views you need to see it in. Again, it's got intelligent information associated with it. Unfortunately, it doesn't cut the floor, so it doesn't put the open for the floor, but we can still do that if we wanted to. So we can select the floor afterwards, edit it, and then say on this plan, because it makes a bit more sense to do it on the plan where I can see the stair, we can then begin to pick the edge of it, lock it in. Again, a feature of Revit, pick the edge of that wall if you wanted to, lock it in. Why would I do that? Well, if the wall moves or if the stair moves, they will update. And that's what we like to see happen. We don't want to have to go around and edit things that we would like to edit automatically. So that's now the new shape of the floor with the open cut in it. We'll finish the floor, and we now have got the floor with the opening that we need. But again, we're not finished, but because I'm in a kind of a, I suppose, a 3D environment, I'm seeing it from all angles, I can pretty much see here in my section that I do not have enough headroom from here. So that's where the floor is back here, and I can just measure, and you can see it's only about 1800. So we need to move the stairs. Again, we can just nudge it by eye, and I'll just nudge it. But what I want you to see is, up in this view here, you will see that the floor is now moving with, so I don't have to worry about the opening anymore. It will actually move with the stair because I locked it in. So I know these are small features, but again, it's all about time saving. It's all about putting in intelligent information in the first place that you can then edit very, very easily. So that's just another feature. But again, to create the views here, very easy to actually then put that information on a view, on a sheet. It's the same process. I'm not going to do it. It's creating a new sheet and it's dragging these on, and you have your new views ready to go. So that's just a small example of coordinated views. And again, you have to be sure that the software you invest in is going to be able to do that. You don't want to have, you know, separate views and that they are not tied together, and you end up having to go around and manually updating those views as you go through the model. Okay. So another, I suppose, example then, when we have got the information in there, we need to look at, say, areas, volumes. We need to be able to see, you know, percentages of areas, percentages of volumes when we actually have the internal layout created, okay? We have an overall building area from the mass, but now we want to break that down even further. So let's have a quick look at something like space planning and presenting those, or that information. So we'll have a look at the format color here. And something like this, okay? So what we've done here is we've added in rooms to each of the spaces, we call them. So as you can see, if I selected that area there, it's telling me it's a room, bulk store 8. If I select it, I'll just move down to the overall information like areas, perimeter, unbounded height, volume for that room, name, number, that type of thing, department even. So what is it? It's part of the back of store. And you'll see that that information being read in a minute. And then things like finishes. So what kind of finishes do you have? All built into that one room. Okay. I don't have a room here. Well, I do actually have an extra room, but I don't have a room object. So that's why it's white, because I added in the stair walls. So what that did was it would have reduced this area, and now I'm left with a blank here. So if I want to add an additional room, we can just select the room. We can give it an actual height or a level, and we can place it, as you can see, within the existing walls. So I don't have to worry about the actual area. It's going to be calculated automatically from that. Okay, so it just calls it room. We'll then type in stairwell. And this information is being added everywhere in the model. So it's going into the database. So when we look at the schedule later on, stairwell will be in there. If I was to move that wall, even at this stage now, we can just grab that wall and we can just drag it, eyeball it out to there. The area will increase to 21 square meters, and if we had looked at this one, that would have reduced. So the information is consistent and coordinated all the way through. So that's very, very easy to get that graphically. We just put a legend on it. It applies the colors. If we wanted to, we can edit the color scheme, you know, to kind of match the existing kind of light pastel format we were using, and that works like that. If you want to look at that information then in a different format, like say the department color plan, same information, just giving us colors based on the departments, all right? And you'll still see this one is white. And the reason is because it's my fault. I didn't put in the intelligence there. So I didn't tell it what department that room comes from. And I'll just leave it at back of store. So the minute I do, it will color it based on the department or the back of store in this case, which is that color. So that's the information in a visual format. We haven't looked at schedules yet, so we now want to have a look and see what schedules you can get out of the model itself. So all the time, while this database has been added to, we are creating schedule information like this. So you'll see things like curtain panel material takeoff. If we look at that, all the glazing that you saw on the curtain walls is now being quantified. Now I'm leaving it at every single panel. I don't have to do that. I could just get a total for all the glass and the various types of glass. But again, very useful information. We could put a cost on. Trevor's going to have a heart attack now when architects put costs on materials. But yeah, you could if you wanted to put a cost based on the square meterage, and you would get a total at the end of that. You know. So we then can look at, say, the information for the rooms. So the room data sheet, reading those rooms, getting back of store, the name, the area, the room type, the finishes, you know. So the room I added is there, stairwell, 21 square meters, don't have a room type associated with it. So we'll pick up, say, something like, I mightn't even have stairs, but I just put general storage for the moment. And then it'll put in my finishes. And there's other miscellaneous information here then to do with the mechanical, the electrical, which I can just use basically as tick boxes. You know, is it mechanically ventilated? Yes or no. You know, it's a tick box. It's not reading anything that's in the model yet, but that's in the MEP product. So, you know, very useful. But we can then look at that information, look at all the department information, and start to see, get the product to do this for me. I don't want to have to be adding up all the rooms and working out the percentage that they are of the total. So now it's telling me the back of store is 30%, my retail area is about 70%, and then there's 1% for that area at the front there, the front left corner. But then you can go into the back of store, and look at all the various rooms in that, and then get the percentages they are for total. So now we can look and see, well, the staff room is 6%, they're the large one. The storage area at the back is 30% of the back of store. I'm not working out this information, I'm just getting the product to do it for me. So again, very useful to be able to present that maybe on a sheet, you know, and be able to get that information out of the model. Okay, so that's just an example of how you might use it for that process. You know, getting the internal layout.
5 minutes?
In 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, right,
So
yeah.
under pressure?
No, I thought I had a bit longer, but
Okay.
I'll do it in 5 minutes.
You
So.
want some
Okay.
Q&A as well?
Yeah, okay, so yeah, there was the other things I suppose I would have liked to have got through inside in the Revit environment would be things like the detailing. We talked about very earlier on there how you would detail the model. You know, there's lots of processes. Detailing tends to be a separate workflow. Normally, you detail separately from your general arrangement drawings and all that. The idea inside in Revit is that we create intelligent details. You know, something like this, whereby now it's going to be very hard to show it to you live, but the idea is that we are looking at live model information here, you know, and we are then detailing on top of it. So what happens is if we were to take, say in this case, this is the dock shelter door, we would like to be able to change, say, the height of that. Where there's a specific truck that we've got coming in for this door in particular, and we need to lower down that door so it'll actually work. So what should happen here is when we lower the detail, that's just asking me save, that the actual information in the model has updated. And that's again a workflow. That's now more your design element, so that you're linking all your information together, and not just the basic overall 3D model side of things. That's just one of the other workflows that you'll see inside in that kind of an environment. Another part, I suppose, that I wanted to cover, and we can do it very quickly, is the construction side. So we have all this intelligent information. And what can a contractor do with it, you know? When he brings it in, what does he get? Well, if I need to get this model, I can give it, or I can share it in various formats. I can share it in the Revit format, I can share it in a DWG format, I can share it in, I suppose, a Navis format. So again, what is Navisworks for people who haven't come across it? It would be, I suppose, our review tool, being able to review the model, being able to aggregate information from a lot of different sources. Because we would like to think that everybody uses Autodesk products, and we would, you know, but that's not the case. People have different structural engineering packages, different mechanical packages, and we want to be able to bring all that information into a single file, and then review. So again, we can do things like, you know, do our walkthroughs. You know, so when we start walking through the model, and this isn't animation, this is just me walking through the model, being able to see what information, you know, the civil guy has given me, what information the guy working on the petrol station has done, the structural model. So to be able to see all that information, but then to be able to use it, I suppose, as a review tool. Rather than setting out sheets of paper and marking them up, we're looking at, you know, doing the review process live inside a model like this. So what I mean by that is being able to, you know, look at, you know, parts of the model. Now I have these pre-cooked, I would have set one up, but being able to look at specific parts of the model, being able to measure things, being able to record that information on the model, being able to, you know, let me see if I have one here now. I think I have a clash here. This is just one example of a clash which I'm going to do. So you can highlight the clashes, you can put comments on them, you know, so that people can see, you know, what information you think is required, and who needs to add that information, you know. So being able to do that to a model is very, very, very important, rather than using the 2D approach for the review process. Obviously then we have other options here when we look at, say, construction sequencing. Okay, so if I was to look at this, now I've only sequenced the structural model, but I think it's enough in this environment. So we've got rid of all the architectural elements, so we've turned them off. We're looking at the structural side here. We can go to our timeliner, and I'm just going to quickly, I suppose, look at this, in that the timeliner allows me to link in, I'll just very quickly show you, if I could add in things like Microsoft project files, Primavera, any CSV file, so Asta Power Project will give you out a file. So we can bring that information in. It has all the tasks, it has the information on the time side of things. We can look at it here in a Gantt format, I suppose, which is the nearest thing you'd see to that. And then we can create tasks within Navis. We can then link the objects to the tasks, and then what we can do is we can simulate those tasks. So I'll just zoom in a little bit so you see it happening. So when I go back to the simulate button, let's just start it off. At the moment, the foundations are being poured, we'll say. Whatever is green is being worked on. And then we can play through that simulation. So again, as you see the model developing, you can see it live on the screen. Now this is, I suppose, what I'm looking at here is my planned sequencing. Okay, there is an option as well, you'll see planned, and if you can see it just down here in the corner, it's very hard to see there's actual. So I can actually put a separate time to what is actually happening on site, and then you can compare the two. So you can see, yes, what is actually done, what stage we should have been at, which again is very, very useful, and you can only do that when you have the intelligent information coming in the first place. And again, another thing that I'll just jump into, and that should finish it up, is the clash reporting, all right? So again, being able to catch clashes before they come on site. So again, let's just back into my tasks. What I've done in the clash report side of things is, I don't want to be looking at the whole model this time. I just want to be able to look at the MEP side, so the ductwork, and again, these all came from the Revit packages, so the ductwork, the piping, and the structure. Okay, so if we just look at a view with those, we can then go to our clash detective and just clear existing ones that I may have created previously. Try to give you a little bit more of a view on it, although it's probably better there. Let's go to our selection tab, and we can then decide, well, we'll clash the structure against the MEP model. Okay, we're just looking at hard clashes here. We can also do clearances, and we'll just run the clash detection. So there are thousands of objects in this model, but fortunately enough, we've only got 38 clashes. Okay, so how do I see those clashes? I mean, at the moment, we're seeing the whole model. Well, it will give you them in an image or a clash by clash option. So very quickly, we can then see the clashes. We can use the model to actually jump from clash to clash. So you're seeing them like that. You can then decide, again reviewing, is this a new clash? Is it an active clash? It will obviously change colour. Is it reviewed? Is it a clash that I've approved? In this case I probably wouldn't approve that, but I can do it, you know, if I wanted to. Then when we bring in the updated model next week, all the new clashes become old clashes, and you know, if there's any fixed, they will be removed from the actual report. So again, it's just a different way of working. It's being able to pick up unintelligent information and then present it you know, in a format that, that is very visual. Again, you can export that report out to HTML, out to any format like that, where you can actually, you know, then place that into a report that you would be using in a design team meeting. So I think I rushed the end of it.
No, that's fine.
If there is any questions, I think
Absolutely.
yeah, we have plenty of time for that anyway. So
Okay,
thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Ger and Val for their two excellent presentations.